I'm Sawyer Minama. This is Hadestown, a concept by Anais Mitchell that I will be analyzing. Here, the image is the cover of the album. The rest of the images on the presentation are from promotional materials for a play adaptation of it, so I won't be describing them. In Hadestown, Anais Mitchell expertly uses strong diction, careful acoustics, and specific pacing to create meaningful characterization and nuanced perspective that delineate a theme of perseverance, of not giving up on those you love. The first song we get is Wedding Song, the first couple seconds go like this. So from the beginning, there were very few instruments. This is a place of scarcity. Orpheus and Eurydice are lovers, but they are very impoverished. This is based on the Greek tragedy of Orpheus and Eurydice. So there are few instruments, and from the get go, there's a cymbal crash. There's tension in their relationship. But there are lots of instruments later on for the song, and we get this conflict between Eurydice and Orpheus. Eurydice is concerned about their status. Eurydice is hungry. She's saying times being what they are, dark and getting darker all the time, and Orpheus brushes her off a little bit. He's very confident in his idea that things will be fine, and every time she speaks, he responds immediately, and that's that causes different characterization in them just from the way the song is structured. Eurydice, we can tell, is someone who is less confident than Orpheus, and because she has to wait over instrumental periods to collect her thoughts, and Orpheus is jumping right in it, and his head is a little bit in the clouds. He's thinking that trees are going to be able to get the wedding table for them. Uh, but in the way they sing, it's still clear that there's a very strong connection between the two of them. There's rhyming within their own verses, but there's rhyming between each other's verses. They sing, "Who's gonna lay the wedding table? Lover, tell me if you're able." And Orpheus responds, "The trees are gonna lay the wedding table." He's rhyming with her, and Maple, and they repeat each other. They call each other lover. So there's a very clear connection between them, and this song is generally pretty upbeat. It's happy, which is very different from what comes later. Our next song is Epic Part 1, and in Epic Part 1 we are introduced to Hadestown with this motif of dirt and stones and metals. Hades is a king of mortar, a king of bricks. And the way this song is structured is very it's methodical and slow. It's almost like Hades is forcing the people of Hadestown, which are singing this song, who are singing this song, to say what they're saying. They're saying it together and slow, and there isn't. So we're introduced to Hadestown, but the next at the end at the end of that, the next song cuts into the track. There's this harmonica playing. It's almost like it's chipping away at the ideas that Hades is forcing on his people. And in Way Down Hadestown, we get this brass and hoarseness. The people of Hadestown are portrayed in a different way. That really feels more like it's what they feel themselves. Brass instruments tend to be related to Hadestown throughout the album. And we're also introduced to Persephone, and she's singing right alongside the workers, so she's connected to them. And there's a contrast in the music between Way Down Hadestown and Epic Part 1, and that contrast is mirrored in the understanding of what Hadestown is actually like. But we also get Eurydice singing in Way Down Hadestown, and she sings the same uh, chorus bit, way down Hadestown, way down under the ground. But she has a completely different idea of what Hadestown is like. They're saying uh, it's slave labor, and she's saying everybody's pockets are weighted down, everybody's sipping ambrosia wine, it's a gold mine in Hadestown. She's got this completely different idea with that same dirt and stones motif going in, and that's even further shown in her later solo in this song, where she gets completely different music in the same song to show in contrasting music their contrasting understanding of what Hadestown is like. We go on to the next song, Songbird, and this is Hades trying to get Eurydice to come to Hadestown. And in Songbird intro, we get this ominous violin, and the violin was introduced in Wedding Song as an instrument that was very closely tied to Eurydice as a person. It was like her theme. So we get that, and it's almost discordant in Songbird intro because she's not doing great. And we go into Songbird, and immediately Hades gets in with his accordion, that metallic instrument, and he speaks for a whole minute. So here's one of his verses.
Choice is yours if you're willing to choose. Seems you got nothing to lose, and I could use a canary.
So we've got Hades singing, and there's this really clear power dynamic between the two of them. In this song, he sings for a whole minute, and he has the audacity to say to Eurydice in this song that's supposed to be between the two of them that he's taking up all of, "Cat got your tongue," but he's not letting her speak. And that imposing character is further clear in the way that he describes Eurydice. She's a little songbird to him. There's a very clear difference in who's in control. But we also get here the same motif of stones and mines with Hadestown. And Eurydice thinks that it's a gold mine, so he's appealing to that. He's saying, "You shine like a diamond down in the mine. Come to Hadestown." But of course, subliminally, he's actually describing how horrible it is. He says, "I could use a canary," in reference to a canary in a coal mine. So he's both saying, "You will die. You're like a canary in a coal mine," and also, "Hadestown is awful. It's like a coal mine." Um, yeah. So we continue on to "Gone, I'm Gone," and Eurydice is saying to Orpheus, "I love you, but I'm hungry. I can't do this anymore." And we start out the song with just these piercing wind instruments, like the feeling you would get if you were pierced by hunger, if you couldn't stop because hunger was taking you over alongside her violin. But halfway through her own song, her singing just cuts out, and she's replaced by the fates, and they're distorted and distant. So it's like she's completely lost control over her own life. It's now just destiny at this point. But even in those fates, with those fates that she's singing alongside, they're distorted. They're like through an old radio. So there's this distance between Eurydice and everyone. She feels alone. And we get these hints of brass, like trumpet farts, throughout the song, like suggesting that she's going toward the being one of the people of Hadestown, like the brass that we saw in Way Down Hadestown. And of course, we go into the next song, When the Chips Are Down, where the Fates are singing, and they're basically telling her to abandon everything she loved about Orpheus. Uh, there's and it's incredibly imposing. There's no break between the songs. The pacing of the When the Chips Are Down is very quick, and the Fates are constantly repeating, "What are you going to do when the chips are down? Now that the chips are down." There's this imposingness about the words they're saying and the way they're saying them. And of course, in this song, we don't get Eurydice's violin anymore. We only have the brass. And In this song about her, she has no volition of her own. She only gets these brief interludes where she's like, "Oh my aching heart." She's she's lost. And of course, we go into the next song, "Wait for Me," and here we go back to Orpheus, and Hermes is describing to him how dangerous the journey will be and how dangerous Hadestown is, and he's describing it. There's cinder bricks and razor wire. We get more metal and stone motif, and the song itself starts out with just a lone guitar, and eventually a piano joins in. That guitar, previously introduced in Wedding Song, is related to Orpheus. So he really does feel alone at this point. But there's a contrast too in the way Hermes and Orpheus speak. Hermes is talking about how dangerous it is. He's whispering and his voice is staticky. And Orpheus is like, "To hell with that. I'm going to sing at full volume because I am confident Orpheus and I care about Eurydice. I don't fear these hound dogs at the gate." And we get metallic instruments too, and clangs of Hadestown coming through, and at the end, the piano is the only thing that's left, which the way it goes up and down is like it makes you, as the guitar of Orpheus fades out, you wonder if doubt is coming in for him. So we go on to the next song, Why We Build the Wall, and here is the first couple seconds of it. Which is contrasted with the following song, Our Lady of the Underground. Here are the first couple seconds of that. So in Why We Build the Wall, we've got Hades, and he's singing this incredibly structured song. He's asking questions and he's demanding responses of his subjects, and they're all responding the same way in exactly the way he wants. And it's very structured. It's like they're under his boot. And we've got low tones and it's slow, and the pacing is slow, and there's an echo. It's very structured, and we've got those leading responses. So it feels very much like they're subjugated in the way the song is presented. And it's ironic because the enemy they're singing about the song is poverty, but as we heard before, Eurydice was impoverished, and Hades wanted her to come. The wall they're building isn't to keep poverty out; it's to keep it in. Hades has convinced them to come here, and they were all impoverished before, and they're kept in by this wall. And tragically, at the end of the song, Hades has got them to sing it for him. He doesn't need to call and get their response. They're just they're making his thoughts happen on their own. They're singing his thoughts, and he's just egging them on and saying, yeah, keep going. In contrast, Our Lady of the Underground, which is Persephone singing to them, At the end of Why We Build the Wall, there's this plucking that leads into Our Lady of the Underground, like there's a crack in the wall. And Persephone is introduced completely, characterized completely differently in the way she's presented in sound. Her song is much more upbeat, and the way she addresses people, she speaks directly to them. She doesn't say why do we build the wall, which is like this authoritarian first person plural. It's the second person. She's speaking directly to the brother. I know how you feel. Because, like we saw in Way Down Hadestown, she's got this connection to them. She understands them. And even in the way the background noise sounds, people are cheering her on as she's singing, and we'll get occasionally these questions she's asking, and they're very different. She'll start asking a question, and she won't be done asking the question before they've already volunteered their own responses to her, because there's a very different kind of respect. Um, so there's Our Lady of the Underground. We go into our next song, Flowers, Eurydice's song, and this one is very slow. Eurydice is lament, and it's got the violin again. So it's like in the way it's presented, it's like it's lamenting her past self, and she's really come to this conclusion. Dreams are sweet until they're not. Men are kind until they aren't. Flowers bloom until they rot and fall apart. She's essentially giving up. The world is bad. And it's just her violin for most of it, and she's singing alone. There's this intense alienation and depression in the way the song is structured. Uh, she says, "Is anybody listening? I open my mouth and nothing comes out." She There's literally nobody there for her. And in the way the song sounds, there's this resignation. She says, I someone turned his face to mine, and then I turned away into the shade. She's really understanding that she took the easy way out. Um, so there's an understanding of the consequences, but even in her intense depression, she's holding on to hope. You, the one I left behind, if you ever walk this way, come and find me lying in the bed I made. I I caused this, but please still come for me. Of course, we get the next song, Nothing Changes, which has the Fates again, and they, in a very short time period, convince her nothing changes, give up on Orpheus. So we go on to If It's True, and this is Orpheus singing at this point, and he's depressed because he's discovered that Eurydice he wasn't fast enough. Eurydice gave up on him, and uh, there's this piercing sound, like the fates have pierced Orpheus the way they pierced Eurydice. The one thing he truly cared about was Eurydice, and now she's gone. If my love is gone for good, and he's casting out the parts of himself. He's a musician. We saw him playing with instruments in Wedding Song, the irregular plucking, and he's the way he's talking about things. They're all tactile and auditory. They can take my mouth, my tongue, my arms, this voice that sung a phrase. And he starts out with this unhappiness directed at Eurydice, but he moves on. There's a very clear shift in the sound of the song. There's building intensity, and eventually, near closer in the second half, he shifts the blame. He says, "I understand that you really had no choice, Eurydice." He says, "While we play." But the ones who tell the lies always say the toss is fair. It's not your fault. While we play the game they fix. Uh, it's it's really not her fault. And so he says, I ask you as a lover, I ask you as a brother, and I ask you once again, is it true what they say? And he wants to know, are you really giving up in spite of all, in even even though it's not your fault, are you going to rise above that? And we get that piano that we saw in it, that we saw in the previous song he was in, and it's because he's in this vulnerable state. Uh, yeah. So we go on to Papers. Hades finds out, and it's this angry metallic song. There's no lyrics, and it's just clanging. Because Hades is angry that Orpheus is there. And then the next song is How Long, and Hades and Persephone are singing together, and we the important thing here is that there is no metallic motif. The what we previously saw Hades as, his outside, and what happened when he was in the presence of his subjects, was that he had a hard exterior. But here we see Hades' inner workings. He's got this love for Persephone. He's singing alongside her. This is the only duet in the entire album where people sing together, because Hades and Persephone love each other. Uh, but also, Hades describes himself as a bird. He says, "I'm a bird on a spit in my bed," and he compares himself. He internally feels like he's just as weak as Eurydice. He's not in control of the situation, and he's like, how does the sun do it? How can it be up there all day, strong? Uh, I don't know how. Um, which is this really nuanced, un- gives us this nuanced understanding of how Hades functions. He's not just some evil person, which sets us up for his internal conflict in the next couple songs. In Epic Part 2, we delve further into that. We start with this hard percussion and these cannon noises. They say, um, heavy and hard is the heart of a king, king of iron, king of steel. The heart of a king loves everything like the hammer loves the nail. It's metallic like before. It's this inherently violent description of how he operates. But then the music changes. There's strings. It's violins and things like Orpheus and Eurydice's relationship, and they're talking about Persephone and Hades meeting, and Hades is really a person too. When he sees Persephone, he's only a man. He's got this love for her that's driving him, and his love for Hadestown is not one that they enjoy, but it's still something, even if it's wrong. And we go on to Lover's Desire, which is another short song, and it's just the sounds of violins and chimes and guitars. It's like uh, our Orpheus and Eurydice back together. Are Persephone and Hades going to be happy? Because that's certainly what lovers desire. And those chimes lead into his kiss, the riot. The phrase in the song is, "With his kiss, the riot starts." And for the first half of the song, we get Hades singing along with these chimes. Uh, Curse this Orpheus. The devil take this Orpheus and his belladonna kiss. He's conflicted because he doesn't like that he feels Orpheus is threatening the kingdom, but he also has to recognize that Orpheus's love is like his own. Um, but toward the middle of the song, there's this turning point, and the chimes die off, and we get the accordion again. which is right here.
The devil take this Orpheus and his belladonna kiss. Beautiful, poisonous, lovely, deadly. Now it thickens on my tongue. Now it quickens in my lung. Now I'm stricken. Now I'm stung. It's done already. Dangerous, this jack of hearts. With his kiss, the riot starts. All my children came here poor, clamoring for bed and board. Now what do they clamor for? Freedom. Freedom.
So we get that shift in Hades, and there throughout this song there's this growing resentment in the volume of Orpheus, and ultimately his decision is, I need to preserve my kingdom. And there's so ultimately he gives this he makes this decision that Orpheus he's going to allow Orpheus and Eurydice to leave, except he's not. Orpheus can't look back at Eurydice while they're leaving, and he says, bravery can be contagious when the band is playing loud. So he feels like Orpheus isn't going to be able to carry on without the love of Eurydice that he knows. And we go on to the next song, Doubt Comes In, and it's this complete reversal of roles from Wedding Song, the very first song. Orpheus is vulnerable and terrified as he's leaving Hadestown because he doesn't have the love of Eurydice to rely on. And we've got this ominous violin playing in the background. It's like an echo of Eurydice, and Eurydice is singing after him when he sings, and she's like, "Don't be scared, I'm here," but he can't hear her. And when so he also sings, "Where are you now?" Which was a line that Eurydice said in Songbird. But when it gets to the now, which is like the most excited part of the line, it's cut off because uh, he's alone and it's depressing. And at the end we get these chilling noises that make it clear to us that Orpheus tragically wasn't able to go on without knowing that Eurydice was behind him. And we get to the final song, I Raise My Cup to Him, and they're very clear about what the theme of the album is. Some birds sing when the sun shines bright, my praise is not for them, but the one who sings in the dead of night, I raise my cup to him. Orpheus, even though he failed, was the one who tried when it was hardest, and that's why they look up to him, and they recognize that Orpheus was just as vulnerable as the rest of them. It wasn't some inherent quality of him. He was a bird like them. He wasn't powerful. He just tried. And even in this ostensibly happy song where they're remembering him, there's this background whine because it's tragic. It's tragic. And that's the album.